What do you think life will look like 20 years from now? That was something I was really curious
Some ideas, some teachings.
Yes, I've done art all my life. I will always do it. But my
section of art, social justice, and the human spirit.
That was allowing me to really express myself.
Hello, I am Douglas Bell, and I want to welcome you to another episode of The Craft and the Calling. I am honored to welcome Jamison Green, the author of Becoming a Visible Man, a powerful memoir that helped bring visibility and understanding to conversations around gender, identity, and masculinity long before they entered the mainstream. Jamison's work explores what it means to live honestly, the courage required to be seen, and the inner journey that often comes before we find language or community for who we are. Today, we're talking about storytelling, visibility, and what it really means to become yourself. I want to welcome Jamison Green to The Craft and the Calling. Hey, Jamison.
Hey, Douglas, thank you so very much for having me as a guest.
Yeah, no, it is great to have you. I have your book right here, and it has been a joy to read. It really has been. I'm just going to just jump straight into this. So, what made you what made you write this memoir?
Well, when I transitioned from female to male, it took me nearly 40 years to figure that out, that I needed to, that I could. And when I did, I suddenly realized that there were a whole lot of questions that nobody answered.
Okay.
And and as I met more and more trans people, as I progressed through my journey, I realized they were all asking the same questions over and over and over again. And I thought, I have an ability to comprehend the medical side, the legal side, the emotional side, and as a writer, to put these things together in a way that I think can communicate not only with trans people to answer their questions, but for trans people's families, any policymakers that are curious about trans existence. For example, a woman in Texas read the book and gave it to the HR director at her corporation, which is a major defense contractor,
Okay.
and said, "You really need to read this book." And the HR manager gave it to the board, and the whole board of directors of this major defense contractor read my book, and then they
Really?
implemented trans inclusive policies in the workplace at that corporation.
Wow. Well,
So it
I
was
give them
so it
credit.
meets the needs of a lot of different audiences in a strange way,
Hmm.
in kind of a unique way. But I really wanted to just answer the questions that people constantly have, and or to point people in a direction where they can find the answers for themselves.
Hmm. And so just a little bit of your background. And you're from where were you raised?
Oakland, California, born and raised.
Okay, okay. So this is the way I'm kind of doing things here. I'm doing things where almost we have like a deck of cards almost, and I've got a list of questions here, and I don't know what you're going to choose, but if you had to choose question one, two, or three, which one would you choose?
One.
One. Okay, then. Let's see. When you hear the phrase becoming visible, what does it mean to you today? And how has that meaning changed over time?
Hmm. Well, for me, it means being seen, but it also means acknowledging the self. from inside without any kind of response necessary.
Hmm.
Just being visible, being present, being opening oneself up to the capacity to engage.
Would you add peace to that? Their symbol of peace, peace of mind?
There's trepidation involved, there's fear involved, but yes, there can be peace involved. It's all about finding that internal balance that allows you to really participate in your life,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're
Mm-hmm.
a public figure or a parent or, you know, someone in a relationship with one or more other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just being present.
Mm-hmm. And how has it changed for you over time? What it means to be visible or present?
Well, when I was young, I mean, really young, like teens and 20s, being visible meant being rich and famous.
Okay.
I don't have any illusions of that any longer.
Okay. Okay.
Um, that's those are pipe dreams, but and lucky people it happens to, but that's that was no, for me it's really about a centeredness that and the ability to speak when necessary.
Now, what does that mean?
Well, there's a lot of ways in which you can say things, you can interject yourself into the national conversation, for example,
Mhm.
and not accomplish very much,
Oh,
but just
yeah,
make a lot of noise.
that's true.
For me, I'm much more inclined to want to say something impactful and meaningful to other people that will actually move the conversation forward
Hmm.
rather than just create excitement or antagonism or anything
Yeah, yeah,
that's fleeting.
yeah. I can definitely agree with that. That I think we're serving each other better if we could say something worthwhile instead of just like I say, antagonizing one another. I don't know what that is gaining. I don't know, and I don't know what anyone is getting out of that. Yes, I totally agree.
It's stimulating, I think, I think some people there's an adrenaline rush when you do that, and I think some people get off on that.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Let me see here. One, three, or question one, three, or four. What would you choose? Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Two,
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 three, or four.
three, or yeah, two, three, or four. I'm sorry. Two, three, or four.
Four.
Four. Okay. Do you think visibility is an act of courage, necessity, or responsibility?
I think there are elements of all three in there, to be perfectly honest. Um, and I think the balance of how those things weigh out or play out can can be different day to day
Hmm.
for any individual.
Hmm. Hmm. No, totally agree. But on the I think in that question, I think responsibility really that stands well, and courage does too, but responsibility does stand out with me. I do think especially in today's world, I say today's world, but where we're all marginalized, people are being marginalized, communities are marginalized.
Yeah.
There is a responsibility to speak up, and to your point, when you do speak up, have something to say that adds value.
Right. Yes, I definitely believe that's super important.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's what kind of comes to mind there when I think of that. What are your thoughts about the idea of necessity? How does necessity play in this?
Necessity is really about the acuteness of a need. And in my community, in the transgender community, the need is extremely great
Right.
these days.
Correct.
There's a lot of misinformation out there about who we are, what motivates us, um, where we are,
Right.
you know, do we even exist?
Right.
I mean, and our ability to live and thrive is literally being threatened.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, no, I think you're totally spot on, and there's definitely a necessity to being visible, and that's the reason why what I think the LGBTQ plus community is doing regarding Trans Visibility Day, Trans Remembrance Day, all these types of things really aid to this conversation that gets around the need
Yeah.
that the community has, and I also think too. When there's visibility, there's also creates allyship,
Yes, absolutely.
you know.
Because people can awaken to the commonalities if
Hmm.
they're given a chance, and
Hmm.
that strengthens us all.
Hmm. Definitely. Okay, let's see here. Five, seven, or eight.
Oh, you have a lot. Okay. 7.
Okay. What misunderstandings about trans men still persist, even among well-meaning allies?
What was the first word in there?
What misunderstandings?
What misunderstandings?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, I think one is there's a belief that we transition in order to gain male privilege,
Oh.
which is false. Um, and yes, we do get some male privilege as long as people don't realize that we're trans.
Hmm.
And I think we and I do talk about this in the book. I think we as trans men have a responsibility to counteract that privilege and to give it away when we can, and basically let people be really truly equal in our presence.
Hmm. And you say give it away. What does that mean?
Not not own it.
Not own it. Okay.
Not I'm not going to claim male privilege. I recognize that I receive male privilege without my asking for it.
Hmm.
And what I do with that privilege, just as an example, in a line at a grocery store, um, I walk up because I'm in a hurry, and people go, "Oh, here's a man who's in a hurry. We better get up, give him some space. He must be important." No, 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 no. As soon as I see that I'm just blocking somebody else, I will offer them to go ahead. Oh no, please, And I've done that many, many times in many situations. It seems like a small thing, but literally people are amazed when it happens. And I think that's a humanizing thing, that when a person has the experience of, oh, that man gave up his privilege right now for me,
Hmm.
um, they, oh gosh, what did I do to deserve that? Oh, wow, well, some men actually are conscious.
Hmm.
Oh, I mean, things like that.
Right.
Very simple, basic things that don't seem like a lot, but that's the only kind of male privilege I actually have,
Right.
is that people might perceive me as somebody who's more important than they are, and I don't believe that.
Well, that's true. And you're right. You may come across somebody who um, defers, I guess, to you, because you're a man. So no, I see that. Is there another misunderstanding you can think of?
I think that people imagine a lot of things about our bodies in terms of medical treatment that we may or may not have had.
Hmm.
And um, and also there are, and I talked about these people also in the book, there are men who live as men, who look just like men, who, who've had all kinds of care, but they have not given up the ability to give birth to a child. And they have actually been pregnant in a male body and delivered a baby. So there's quite a few of them out there. And, people think that that's an impossibility or that automatically makes you a woman. I disagree with that premise, but, it depends on how you define what's a woman and what's a man. I think
Right.
if we don't look at relationships as part of those definitions, I think we do everyone a disservice.
So you're saying by not adding the context of relationships into the conversation, you then are putting boundaries around what is possible. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and also I think when people look at people as if they look just at women as female bodies that are destined to conceive and deliver children.
Hmm.
And if you do that in a male body, then you're not a man. You are a woman because that's what women do. I
Hmm.
think that's a limitation because not all women do that. And that doesn't mean that they are not women if that's who they are.
Hmm.
And men can do more than you think they can sometimes.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And I think this one is an interesting question. Misunderstandings. Is it anything else about misunderstandings with the trans men, particular, or is there something uh, trans in general, both trans men, trans women, or is this very specific to trans? This question is very specific to trans men.
Well, I think one other thing that I see many trans men do, and I'm sure there are some trans women who do this as well. We hold ourselves back because we're afraid of confrontation.
Hmm.
We're afraid of um, success to a certain extent. I mean, many trans men are seriously underemployed in comparison to their education level
Okay.
and to their capacity. And I'm sure that's the case for trans women as well
Hmm.
in many situations. But also, I think trans men are afraid of being uh, thought of as less than a man.
Mm. Mm.
And because it's damaging.
Correct. Correct. Now, when we say that, meaning those men are not invited in the broader community, that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, when I read your book, though, that was part of um, where you had kind of a crossroads because you were in a men's group, and it was time to, yeah, tell me about that experience.
Yeah. Well, the reason I joined that men's group was because my partner who left me who ended our relationship when I transitioned, um, she and I had been together. We had been drawn together because of music, and we performed together. We sang together. We did a lot of musical events, and it was a very big part of our lives.
Hmm.
But she ended our relationship, and I was heartbroken, and I could not sing. I
Oh,
could not go into that deep place in the belly where you bring up the emotions that come out in a song. I
okay.
would just start to cry. I
Okay.
couldn't sing. And but I wanted music to be back in my life, and I heard about this group, that men's percussion group that was a performance based group that did also male soul making is what they called it.
Okay.
And I it was led by a percussionist who also gave lessons. And so to get to know him, I signed up for lessons because there was not space in the group yet for new members.
Hmm.
And so I signed up for percussion lessons, and so I got to know him, he got to know me. I got to learn a bunch about Afro-Brazilian percussion, which was wonderful. And then there was a space in the group and I was invited to join. And so there was a rule in the group where we had to tell our story. Each man had to tell his story to the group and in 10 minutes.
Okay.
And you could tell an encapsulated version of your whole life story, or you could tell one tiny little part. And you had to do this on an annual basis.
Okay.
Each man did this in a sort of sacred circle kind of setting. And it was very powerful. And I watched many guys do it, and it was getting to be about the year, and I hadn't done it yet.
Right.
And then there was such a waiting list to get into this group that the leader wanted to start a sort of subsidiary group where people would learn some of the drumming and learn some of the soul making processes and techniques and behaviors and stuff that we were trying to propagate. And he asked another man and myself to lead that group.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, oh, I don't know, can I lead that group and not have them know that I was born in a female body?
Right.
It seems a little presumptuous of me to do that. Um, you know, to be leading a men's group
Right.
without people being aware of that. And so I finally made an appointment with the leader and told him, and he asked me if he said he needed to think about it. And then he asked me if I would tell my story to the other guys on the leadership team. And then he wanted me to tell my story to the entire group.
But at this point, you had not had your talk to the whole, at this point, to the whole group. You still had not. So
No,
that was your permission to go on and have to tell your story.
yeah. And because he said he's thought about it for 2 whole weeks, and he said he took apart in his mind, he took apart all of the interactions that we had had over a period of a year, about a year and a half, considering the time that was taking lessons before being in the group. And he said he took everything apart and put it all back together, and he realized there was no difference. I was the same man that he thought I was. I was reliable. I was open.
Right.
I was um, I always pitched in,
Right.
and just he couldn't imagine that I was anything but a man.
Now, the first thing that's coming to my mind here is, doesn't the trans community suffer this kind of deception? Like, for instance, with, this leader of this group, he was nice enough or open enough to say, you're the same person I trust, you're the same person I know. But this is a question: does the trans community then not suffer kind of a deception, like, well, you deceived me in some way?
Some people react that way. It's true. And some people can understand why we wouldn't want to reveal something that might be shocking or might be, make us into a joke. Um,
Hmm.
and in fact, I had a girlfriend who told her best friend and her husband about that she was dating a trans man, and they just laughed at her
Really?
and started making jokes. And then she told me about it, and I said, "Well, this is why I say you don't tell my story. You don't tell people what I am when they don't know anything about me as a human being.
That's true.
I need to be the one to tell my story. I
Hmm.
need to be the one because and I need to be, people need to meet me first and get a sense of me as a human being so
Hmm.
that when I tell this story, they can actually hear what I'm saying
Hmm.
instead of hear their stereotypes in their heads.
Hmm. Wow. That was very good on your part to have an awareness of that. I don't know if that type of awareness gets articulated enough that you need the right to tell your story, not someone else tell it for you.
Right.
Interesting. Okay. All righty. Let's see here. Next question. Um, 9, 10, or 11?
9.
9. Okay. When writing Becoming a Visible Man, do you feel you were documenting history, telling your personal story, or creating a guide for others?
All of the above.
All of the above. That's what I said myself too. All of the above.
Yeah, it's a real hybrid of a book. And I use my personal story. It's not an autobiography or really even quite a memoir in some ways,
Mhm.
but I use my personal story as an entry point to discuss some of the issues and the problems that trans people face, but I in a way that draws the reader in, hopefully, emotionally and intellectually, so that it opens the door for the discussion.
Mhm. Mhm. So that's where the ideal of creating a guide comes in because you right. The writing is a lot. There's some level of academia in the writing as well too. So you are giving researched information. So we are getting
Yes,
outside just your telling your story.
right. It's not just my opinion about everything either. It's actual facts
Correct.
and
Now, were you a
talking
teacher?
with doctors and things.
Were you a teacher at one time?
Not
Professor?
well. I did have an adjunct professor role for a little while, but before I wrote the book, I taught legal writing back in the 1970s for one summer session.
Okay.
It's a special program, and otherwise, no,
Okay.
I have not been professionally a teacher.
Okay. I thought I read in the first bit there you were talking to a class because you had asked the
Yes, I
class
was
about
frequently a guest speaker,
okay.
frequently in psychology courses, human sexuality courses, sociology courses, medical schools, seminaries.
Okay.
I did a lot of that kind of educational work, but it was strictly as an independent consultant.
Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. We've got I'm gonna throw 11, 13, or 14.
11.
11. We've got kind of a little pattern here. You're always choosing the first one of the three.
Am I?
Let's see where this number where the stories you hesitate where there are stories you hesitated to tell. What helped you decide to include them?
Yes, there are definitely stories I hesitated to tell. And in fact, much of when I first didn't want to write a book that actually tagged me as an author, as a trans person, because I would rather be writing about some trans person and not have to own it myself.
Hmm.
But I was talked out of that. I was advised by some major authors that I knew that I should own my own story and not give it away like that.
Correct.
But I didn't want to be tagged as a trans author, because I don't want to have to be stuck only writing about that. And yet I have a lot to say about it. Then I probably will write several more books specifically on that topic, but I'll also write things that don't center around that. But
Hmm.
you never know.
Now,
Um, I um, what made me write about the things that I chose to write about, regardless of how difficult they were, was that they were crucially, I felt crucially important to getting the message across, to reaching the heart of of a matter. Um, because I that's what I want to get at as a writer. I want to touch people's hearts, not
mhm.
just, spew facts at you or, you know, get you all excited about something. No, I want to touch, in terms of like being agitated.
Right,
No, I want you to be touched in the heart
right.
with the kinds of questions that people like me have to face sometimes and with what our families have
Have
to
to do
deal
that.
with.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I definitely hear that. You can definitely see that in your writing and your work. Um, let's see here, some more. Let's see here. We've got question. If you had your choice between 19, 20, or 21, well, even 22, which one? Which question?
Funny.
Oh, you changed on me. Okay.
That's because you pointed that out to me.
All righty. What part of your younger self do you feel most compassion for now?
I um I really have compassion for the little 6-year-old kid who saw Peter Pan on television.
Okay.
When Mary Martin played Peter Pan, it was live broadcast nationally. It was like a big deal.
Hmm.
And I watched that and I said to myself, if she can be a boy, then so can I.
Okay.
And then when it was over, I said, and I will be a much better boy than she is.
Okay.
And then I asked my mother to make me a Peter Pan costume, a Peter Pan outfit. And she did.
Wow. So
And
you had
I
support.
loved that.
You had support.
To an extent, yes, to
Okay.
an extent.
Okay. Well, it's
We had
well
more
having.
debates. I'm sorry.
I was saying having family support is really important to an individual's success in this journey, from my understanding.
Yes. I mean, my parents did not like the fact that I did not want to wear girls' clothes.
Hmm.
And my father, unfortunately, had passed away by the time I realized that I could transition and that I really needed to. And so my mother was alone when that happened, and she was very upset, very, very upset. And I felt bad because I thought, if my dad had been here, he would have helped her.
Mm.
And that's because of something that happened a few years prior when I came out to my parents as being in a relationship with another woman while I was still ostensibly a woman. So it was a
Mhm.
lesbian relationship. And my mother got very upset and said, "She's using you. You won't have any friends. You're going to be living in the gutter." Everything she'd read about in the women's magazines about what happens when your children, are not living a heteronormative life.
Right.
Um, she bought it all, and my dad, who was definitely wore the pants in the family, um, he was uncharacteristically silent. And my mother said, "So what do you think about this?" to him. And he said, I'm sorry if my attitudes made it so hard for me, for you to tell me something so important about who you are.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. Okay, I'll give him credit then.
And and he never said another homophobic word in his life
Wow.
after that.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Thank you for that
So
answer.
I really felt unconditional love from my father,
Mm-hmm.
but not so much from my mother.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time she died, um, she had adjusted a bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna finish up by giving the last question. How about that?
Okay.
Let's see here. I'm gonna go with what does becoming visible mean for the world now? Not just for trans people, but for all of us.
I think if we as individuals are not trans or not, are not visible, we can't get our needs met. We can't get the health care we need. We
Mhm,
can't find the jobs that we're well suited for. We can't function well in society.
mhm,
So I think visibility is really important in order to be understood and accommodated in society for every single person.
mhm,
Now, a lot of people have a kind of a privilege that they take for granted and
mhm,
they expect certain things. And when you're in a minority position, um, you realize you don't have that. And so being visible is important in order to be acknowledged.
mhm,
And I think it's an important thing for the people who have privilege to recognize that they do, and then to understand why hoarding it hurts them as much as it hurts all the other people that they're disenfranchising.
mhm, mhm. I want,
I just think conscientiousness about being part of the human family is really important
right,
for
right.
all of us.
Right. I wonder why those in all relationships, someone has privilege compared to the other person
Yeah,
in the relationship,
yeah,
whether it's your
yeah,
relationship with society, each other. But what I'm getting to is I wonder why the person who has privilege, I wonder why that individual can be at times so defensive about the privilege.
yeah. I wonder too. I find it mystifying. Um, does it come from insecurity? Does it come from, something that happened in their childhood where they were bullied, or something? I mean, I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean you have the privilege. I mean, so from that standpoint, you really are in a place to where you can listen because listening is not going to take your privilege away.
Right.
It still exists. So sometimes I'm kind of at a loss for having such a strong position in these relationships. Like I look at myself as a Black person, and I look at society, the greater society, broader society, as to why. Uh, Broader society struggles to listen sometimes. I mean, listening just is not going to take your privilege away. It's just not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like the whole issue about same-sex marriage basically didn't really hurt any heterosexual person's marriage at all to have same-sex people be able to get married. It took nothing
Correct.
from their privilege.
Correct. Correct.
Nothing.
Exactly. So, Jameson, I do want to tell you thank you for being here. Where can people find your memoir at?
Well, it can be anywhere. It's on Amazon. It's at Vanderbilt University Press. There's the publisher. You can buy directly from the publisher. Any independent bookstore. I love independent bookstores. Any independent bookstore can order it for you. It's a regular thing. It's also an audiobook if people prefer
Oh,
the sound instead of the eye. But yeah, I got to read it, so it's my voice in there. And that's, I guess, I think that's on Audible,
Okay.
but it uh, it's out there somewhere.
Okay.
And yeah, and then there's, you can look at my website, which is jamisongreen.com.
Okay.
And
And your social media handles? You're on social media?
I have a LinkedIn account, which I use a lot,
Oh,
which
okay.
is Jamison Green, uh, in the format of a LinkedIn
Right.
um, handle, but it's all Jamison Green, all one word, just like the website is. And then I have I have an Instagram account, but I keep having to ask my daughter, who's very skilled at Instagram, to help me post something all the time. Now she has a new baby, so she's not as available to me.
Okay.
So I'm not as active on Instagram as I should be.
I think I feel the same way about social media as you do, to be honest with you. And plus, it always, it's always changing. There's always something new. And to your point, I enjoy being an author, not necessarily trying to be a person. I'm not here to post all day long. I'm here to write. I'm here to connect with people. I'm here to be with people. I think much like in your book, I these nuances in life makes me curious, and I think your book has done that. I think your book has continued to elevate my curiosity around different people, different authors, different artists, their voices, their thoughts. And that's why we're here today. And so I want to tell you thank you for sitting with me today. This has been good. This has been a good conversation. I've learned a lot.
Thank you, Douglas. It's been my privilege to be with you. I'm so grateful for that you appreciate my work and for sharing it in your channel. I'm very touched. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And everyone, if you stayed with us, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Jamison Green. And I am Douglas Bell, and you can reach me at my website at douglasbellbooks.com. And my social media handles are dbellblog for Twitter and Douglas Bell Author for Facebook and Instagram. Come to my website, join my newsletter, also to subscribe as well to this YouTube channel. But I do want to tell you thank you for being with me today, and I would like for you all to take care. Bye-bye. If this conversation spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Drop a comment below and let us know your favorite part of the interview, or share what poetry means to you. Hey, and if it inspired you, hit the like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Let's keep the power of words alive by spreading these stories far and wide. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you'll never miss a beat.